everybody. We unfortunately do not have mics today, so we're all just going to have to be really loud. So if I sound like a street preacher, it's just because I'm trying to make sure the folks in the back can hear me. But it's good to see you all. We still got people coming in, but we're going to get the music started. So did we give out the lyrics to the song?
They're on the way.
They're on the way. So we will have actual
right.
printouts with the lyrics to the songs here any minute.
If only we had the technology with which to pull up these songs on our phones. The first one, the order of the songs is we're going to do I am who you say I am, and if I say you am who I say you are, that's the pre-coffee talking. And then the next one is Yet Not I. The worst part about the technology is now I have to read on it. All right. So, if everyone will please stand, we're going to do some praise and worship and sing some songs. We're going to start with Who You Say I Am. First, third, and last verse of this one.
Yet not I, but through Christ in me.
What gift of grace is Jesus my Redeemer? There is no more for heaven now to give. He is my joy, my righteousness and freedom, my steadfast love, my deep and boundless peace. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus, for my life is wholly bound to His. Oh, how strange and divine, I can see all is mine, yet not I, but through Christ in me. No fate I dread, I know I am forgiven. The future sure, the price it has been paid. For Jesus bled and suffered for my pardon, and He was raised to overthrow the grave. To this I hold, my sin has been defeated. Jesus now and ever is my peace. All the chains are released, I can sing, I am free, yet not I, but through Christ in me. With every breath, I long to follow Jesus, for He has said that He will make me home. And day by day, I know He never leave me, until I stand with joy before the throne. To this I hold, my hope is only Jesus. All the glory evermore to Him. When the face is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. When the race is complete, still my lips shall repeat, yet not I, but through Christ in me. Yet not I, but through Christ in me.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to ask Chad to come up to the stage now and do his job.
Let's start with a word of prayer. Oh God, I just want to thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to come here and gather in your name. For the great people at Dragon Con who've given us the room and the technology, and for you blessing us with the ability to come to Con at all, but also gather as people of God, your children. Lord, we ask that you would open our hearts and our minds to the word you would have for us, and I would ask that you would speak through me and let them be your words, not mine. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. So we're going to talk about some housekeeping things first. As you've noticed, Fans for Christ is back in full force. We have returned to the original name, and a lot of people have been excited to see that happen, not least of all us involved. And as a result of kind of this, I guess you would call this a rebirth. And so We are looking for a future that is bigger and brighter than ever. We're looking at new ways to outreach, new ways to minister and provide a place for you guys to be able to fellowship with each other and find a safe place where you can express your Christian faith and your geeky side as well. 'Cause I know we talk about this amongst ourselves quite frequently. Sometimes you feel like you have to kind of suppress one side or the other depending on who you're with. But here you can be yourself. And so to that, to get that started, we have been working on a new logo. One of our FFC members stepped up to provide the funds to hire a graphic artist. And so this is just kind of the first draft. Or we're not the first draft. We've been through a little bit, but this is not the final product. So you'll see this come into different forms and functions. We'll be adding color. This is just what we were able to accomplish for DragonCon. But there it is. Hope you like it.
Thank you. Stacy.
And you'll start seeing this on banners and ribbons and stuff like that in the future. And speaking of which, we brought 250 FFC ribbons. My badge is over there, but Ross has one. And we are almost out. So if you have, right? So if you want one, catch one of the leaders, the FFC leaders, before we leave here, and we'll make sure that one gets set aside for you before they disappear completely. To that end, I want to introduce your leaders to you, and this is just so you can put a name with a face. If you have questions about FFC, what we're doing, where we're going, or if you have questions about faith, the message today, or issues that you may have in your life and just need somebody to talk to, these are good people to approach to ask about that. So, of course, I'm Chad Sides. Some call me Darth Preacher because I'm such a Star Wars nerd. My wife is Mallory Sides. Stand up, Mallory. Let everybody see who you are.
Hello.
She is essentially, big applause for her. She is essentially the point of contact for Fans for Christ. If we have a table, if we have a room, if we have a spot in the parade, it's because she's doing the legwork to make those connections and make it happen. We've got the Byrne family. There's Chris back there and Stacy.
She is alcohol rushing people in here.
She's out, of course, she's out serving and helping people find the church service. That is so Stacy.
Yes, it is.
Chris does this at Conuga. So he delivers fantastic messages at Conuga. So if you can make it up to that con in Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, be sure to check out the church service there. And we've got the Knowles brothers, Ross and Owen.
How do you tell I was related to him?
The Knowles, never mind, that's okay. And we got Andrew Mucha, you call him AJ. So get a good look at the test afterward.
Yeah.
And please, I mean it as to the full extent I can express it. Come to us if you have questions or need to talk to somebody. And there are lots of other great people within Fans for Christ. It's not just us. So there are other people you can approach, but we're going to be the ones that know the most about what's going on with the ministry, and what we don't know now we'll figure out. Another thing that I want to talk to you about real quick is a book idea that I had that I am going to invite all of you to be a part of if you want to. Most of you probably know that our inception began with a book by Steve Weiss called God Loves the Freaks. And that has been a mainstay. We have a copy at the table for you to look at if you haven't seen it yet. That has been a mainstay of our ministry. But we've been around for a while now, so I thought it might be time for a sequel, as it were. And I know Hollywood's doing all the sequels, but in this case it's probably called for. because we've had years of history now, and we've got so many stories that need to be told. And I thought it would be interesting to put that down in writing for people to be able to look back on and see what we've done, where we've come from, what we've experienced. And so I want to invite you guys to be a part of that. And I'm going to, when I get the logistics figured out, I'm going to ask for submissions for your stories. How you found Fans for Christ, what it's meant to you, some of the impact you've seen of that the ministry has had on the con or in people's lives. I want you to write those stories down and send them to me. And that can be done anonymously, or you can have your name included in the book. It's completely up to you, and I'll have more details about how we're going to handle that as I get stuff figured out. So just keep an eye on the Fans for Christ social media. We're on Facebook, of course, but we're branching out into Instagram, Twitter. We're rebuilding a new website. We just started a new YouTube channel. I think this message is actually going to be the first video on the new YouTube channel. So there's lots of ways to keep in touch with us. You can contact me directly, and hopefully I'll be able to get that going pretty soon. And hopefully it'll be a new ministry tool that we can use. So let's jump into the message now. The fall of the Jedi. Don't fall away from Jesus. So, is anybody a fan of the Disney sequel trilogy, Star We got to have more than one fan. Okay, we got to go. Hey, that's not as many as I would. Yikes.
No.
Well, I'm definitely not a hater. I do not think it holds up to the greatness of the original trilogy, but I mean that's hard to live up to. So I do have though some criticisms of how they handled the trilogy. Part and parcel being you got Han, Luke, and Leia, and you never have a scene with the three of them together. I don't get that. And you wait till the last movie to bring in Lando? I mean, come on. But they did do some things right. One of them not being how they handled Luke. I'm sorry, but I just I'm not a big fan of how they handled Luke, because I grew up with him as one of my primary heroes in life, and I've loved the extended universe, the original, that's now Legends, the original, I almost called it Marvel. Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm talking about Star Wars. And there he was much more of the kind of hero that he was in my childhood. And I thought the Mandalorian handled him terrifically. I mean, that lone X-Wing coming in slowly, and you're like, there's no way that somebody's just cruising in like that and in just one X-Wing. That's got to be somebody significant. And then he lands and he comes in, that lightsaber ignites, and then he just goes to town on the trooper, the Dark Troopers. That had me jumping out of my seat. And years later now, I can't believe it's already been this long, but years later, people are still talking about that scene. It was fantastic. Well, in the sequel trilogy, you go through the first movie, wondering where Luke is, and then he appears in the movie.
Oh.
Then you see the second movie, and he's a shell of what he once was. He's a recluse living on a backwater planet, Octu, and he has removed himself from the Force, completely cut himself off from the Force. He's removed himself from the Jedi. He's removed himself from his friends and family. Now, to hear Rian Johnson tell it, Luke thought he was doing something heroic. He thought that the Jedi needed to be removed from the galaxy. He's taking that upon his own shoulders to basically exile the name of the Jedi. And I didn't really think that came across in the movie. Maybe that's just me, but considering how many so many hands were raised, I don't think it's just me. But to me, that sounds like Luke was a deconstructed Jedi. So, how many of you have read about Christians who have deconstructed? Most of you. How many of you actually personally know somebody who has deconstructed? That's most of you as well. I know quite a few myself. And there's a lot of deconstructing going on. And I try to listen to their stories because I'm interested in what draws people to God and what draws them away from Him. And one thing I've noticed is that there really aren't two stories of deconstruction that are exactly the same. I actually got into a conversation about this with a person who had deconstructed. She was telling me her story and what that meant. And I said, but that's great, but your story is not the story of these other people. So there is no one definition that I can see for what it means to deconstruct. So I started thinking about what are the commonalities between these people who have so-called deconstructed. Some of them are questioning the box that Western society and our traditions have put God into. That's respectable. I try to question what I believe and look to the Bible and let people ask me the challenging questions so that I can think about my faith and what I believe. So questioning is not a bad thing. The truth does not mind being questioned because it can hold up to that. Some are reacting to being hurt by the church. That's a tough one. We're going to dig into that a little bit more later on. Some are reacting to being offended by the church. And that's different from being hurt by the church. Now, if you cause me pain, you've hurt me. If I don't like what you have to say, well, that's just me being offended, and that's on me. How dare you say that I'm not perfect the way I am? And some are reacting to a man-made religion that doesn't hold enough truth. We can see examples of that in the Bible. With the Pharisees, they were the people who knew the law, who practiced the law, and they could not recognize God right in front of their faces. So if you're under a pastor or a leader who is following a man-made religion rather than following God, that's going to ring hollow sooner or later. So those different questions, those different effects are going to have different results. So theoretically, your questioning could result in you being more in tune with God directly rather than what I call churchianity. What is churchianity? That's being more worried about what I look like sitting in a pew than the condition of my heart or that people around me are hurting and need love. The problem is a lot of people think they're on that road when actually what they're doing is inventing a new Jesus that never challenges how they want to lead their lives. Now, you cannot tell me that people interacted with Jesus and walked away the same. Jesus changed people. And if you are telling God what's true instead of listening to Him tell you, you're not following God, you're following yourself. And dismayingly, a large number of people are rejecting God completely. We have Fans for Christ members from years past who are now atheists. I have other friends that are the same. They have just walked away from God completely. They're not even attempting to follow Him or claim that they follow Him. And none of this is a surprise because Matthew 24:24 tells us, "There shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect." That's what we're seeing. We're seeing false prophets, false Christs, false gospels, trying to draw people away from God, from Christ, from the Bible. And that's what I want to help combat today. This is more of a maintenance message than an evangelical one. I want to help you examine some of the things that might cause you doubt. And we're not even scratching the surface. Entire books have been written about the things that I'm going to bring up. And I myself have done entire messages on some of these things. So this is just a very nutshell encapsulation of some of the things that you might be running into. But I do hope that if you are seeking God, if you're wondering what this Jesus thing is all about, wondering what us Christians are all about, that some of these will help you realize that there are answers to these questions. And it will put you on a path to getting past those and coming to realize who God really is. So let's take a look at a couple of causes that might cause you doubt. Mistreatment. I mentioned this one to begin with. Mistreatment by the church. That's a tough one to deal with. So Ben was mistreated by Luke. Now, I maintain, unless there's a book that I haven't read from the New Canon, I maintain that we don't know exactly what happened between Ben and Luke. Yes, we see Luke coming in to strike Ben down in his sleep. That's from Ben's perspective, from Kylo Ren's perspective. He's influenced by the dark side, and your point of view is not always reality. Maybe he thought that was what was happening. Maybe he thought Luke was coming after him, when that is not actually what Luke's intention was. We don't see it from Luke's point of view, only Kylo. So, is it a violence thing? I don't know. But even if Luke didn't try to strike him down, I think we can still see Ben feeling mistreated. There's a reason it got to the point where either Luke did try to strike him down, or he perceived that was what was happening. So, maybe Luke should have had a message like this. Hey, I see you're being influenced by the dark side. Let's talk about this and let's deal with it. Let me help you find a way to guard your heart against this darkness before it got to that point. And likewise in the church, I think we see some legitimate mistreatment going on. There we have wolves in sheep's clothing. People who will use their position, their influence, to prey on others. And I hate seeing that. We have Christians who don't like others that are different. And we, as fans of Christ, we've witnessed some of that ourselves firsthand. We have a member who approached one of the DragonCon parade protesters to talk to them about what we do as a ministry here at the con. Not only did they not want to talk to her, they spit at her. They spit at a fellow believer, if they were indeed believers, because their actions kind of lead me to doubt. But I don't know them. But can you see Jesus spitting at somebody coming to talk to him? Judas betrayed him. He knew Judas was going to betray him. And not only did he not spit at Judas, he washed his feet. How is spitting at somebody showing the love of God? It doesn't. So there are going to be people who do that. But let's look at what the Bible says in Romans 13. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. And whatever other command there may be are summed up in this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. So, spitting at somebody is certainly not loving your neighbor as yourself. Ridiculing somebody because they have come into your church and they are seeking Jesus, but the only thing they have to wear, whether they want to or not, is a long black goth dress. And you stare at them and make them feel like they're a leper. I've seen that happen with my own eyes. That person, to the best of my knowledge, has never set foot in another church. So, let me tell you, if you have been mistreated by someone in the church, that is not what God is telling them to do. He's telling them to do the exact opposite. He's telling them to love their neighbor and do no harm. So don't let that taint your view of God. Don't stay in that situation either. If you're being mistreated by somebody in the church, get out of that danger zone. Political differences. Boy, this is a tough one. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. But can I tell you, God is not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's bigger than those boxes. And if you're looking across the aisle saying, how can they be a Christian and support this candidate? I can guarantee you they're looking at you and thinking the same thing. So, people are people. We're all flawed. We're doing the best we can to serve and follow God in our fallen, flawed state. But God is above that. So don't think that you can't serve a God that is this political affiliation or the other, because he's not. And we're going to go on from that. Oh, this is a fun one. Lack of faith in the Bible. So Ben lost faith in Luke, clearly. Whether that be because Luke wasn't there for him when he needed it, or whether because Luke tried to stab him in his sleep. He lost faith in his uncle, in his master, his Jedi teacher. As a result of what Ben did by becoming Kylo Ren and destroying the Jedi Academy, Luke lost faith in the Force. And that is why he removed himself from it. So I think it is important for us to have confidence in the book that we use as our foundation. So, was Jesus a real person? Well, I just thought I had another slide in there. Sorry about that. So, was Jesus a real person? Well, historical accounts outside of the Bible have been written by Jewish and Roman historians, as in not Christians. These are not Christian writers. They mention Jesus as a historical figure. One Roman historian even went so far as to say that Jesus was put to death by Pontius Pilate, and that ignited a religious movement. So, historical Jesus is not confined to the pages of the Bible. I am not aware of any credible historical scholar who believes that Jesus was not a real person. Now, they may not believe that he is who he says he is, but he did exist. Has the Bible been changed? I've heard that the Bible has been corrupted. I've heard that it's a translation of translation of translation of translation. And like the game of telephone, you start out with one message, you pass through all these points, you get to the end, and it's a completely different message. Have you ever heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? So these are scrolls that were found. They date back roughly 2,000 years. Some were written before Jesus was born. Some were written during his lifetime. The NIVBible.com says that the two sets of manuscripts, talking about the modern translation of the Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls, bear a remarkable resemblance, a testimony to the reliability of the Old Testament. They also say that these contain the oldest known copy of the Hebrew Bible. Now, there are some differences. I've done a little bit of study. I'm no scholar on the Dead Sea Scrolls, but I have done some study, and there are some differences, like the height of Goliath. Okay, that has no bearing on my faith one way or the other. Now, to be fair, there are some more significant differences, but as the NIVBible.com says, the differences are minor when you consider the time span, when you consider the message. There's nothing in there that changes my perception of Jesus, of the faith message, of redemption. We can look at those manuscripts and have confidence that the Bible that we read has been preserved by God. Has anybody had somebody come up to you and say, Jesus was stolen from Horus or Mithras or insert random deity here? Yeah, okay. So for those of you that haven't encountered that yet, hopefully you won't, but what do you do with that when somebody comes in and says that, oh, well, you know, this guy was born of a virgin and he had 12 disciples and he was baptized by no name the baptizer and died and rose again 3 days later? Okay, unless you know about these ancient deities, I mean, how do you respond to that? And there are so many of these guys, so many deities, so many things that they say Jesus ripped off from. We can't go through them all. But you can check out Horus Ruins Christmas. See, we have some fans. This is a video that was created by Lutheran Satire, and it is a very comical, but a nutshell view of these ideas and a comparison of some of these deities. I highly recommend it. And there's a Ghostbusters joke in there as well. For a little bit more of a deeper dive, The Case for the Real Jesus by Lee Strobel, this is where I started when I had this first presented to me here at DragonCon, actually. I had no response to them. I just had to say I don't know, but then I went and picked up this book, and that helped me get acclimated a little bit more to that. But just to give you a preview, they'll tell you that Horus or Mithras were born from a virgin. Horus, actually, his mom was goddess Isis, not a virgin. This is my favorite one. Mithras came out of a rock. If you confuse rock with virgin woman, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not even close. It's at least if it were like a young lady or something like that, you know, I could say, okay, you know, I don't think you're right, but I can see how you might interpret it that way. It's a rock. You're just making stuff up to try to discredit Christians. But people still believe that and will still attack you with that. So just know that Jesus was not stolen from these guys, please. And there is so much more that I wanted to cover in this section that I just can't get to. My first run through of this message was almost an hour long. And I said, I got to remove stuff. And I removed a bunch of stuff, and it was still like 45, 50 minutes long, and I had to remove some more. I wanted to talk about science. I wanted to talk about the goodness of God, and there's just not time to cover everything. So I'll just say that there are more questions. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And if science is your thing, if you're interested in the scientific aspect, don't go to people who will tell you that dinosaur bones were placed into the ground to test our faith. That has really occurred. Somebody has actually said that, and that is not who you want to go to figure out how faith and science intertwine. I particularly like Hugh Ross. He's on the autism spectrum like me, and that's how I found him. He was talking about that, but he's a PhD, and he is actually with his group Reasons to Believe. He's actually created a testable and predictive model of creation. Predictive. That means that they can say, if creation really happened, then we can expect these results, and now we can test that and see if we actually get those results. And it's amazing how many times they get those results. Otherwise, they wouldn't be writing books about it. So, Who Was Adam is a book that I'm currently reading, and it's very, very interesting. So let's talk about some ways to avoid the dark side. I talked about how Luke might have been able to help bend a law, coming to him and let's build some defenses. But what if he had dug into the source of the dark side influences to begin with? What if he said, I can see this effect, and I'm going to go beyond just helping you. I'm going to help the academy, because if it's happening to Ben, it's probably going to happen to other students as well. So there's a bigger picture there, and I want to give you some helpful tips on how to guard your heart against the dark side. These are not magic pills. They're not going to apply to everyone in the same way. These are just some things that have helped me personally, that I've seen help other people. This is not everything. It's not a be-all, end-all. But let's start with reading the Bible for yourself. Because it's harder for people to lead you astray if you know what the Bible says. It also gets you listening to God. You're not going to hear God if you're not listening to Him. 1 John 4:1 says, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." There's those false prophets again we talked about at the beginning. What are you going to test those spirits against if not the Bible? You're going to test them against your heart. The heart is deceitful. You're going to test them against your knowledge. I certainly didn't know nearly as much when I was 20 as I do now. I don't know as much now as I will when I'm, God willing, 70. I don't trust my knowledge because it's limited. My understanding is limited. So if I can't test the spirits against my heart or my knowledge, what am I testing against? Testing against the Bible. You've got to read that Bible if you're going to do that. Find a local church. I know this can be difficult for some of us because, like I was talking about with churches that they kind of look at you funny if you don't look like what they think a Christian should look like. I mean, a lot of us have fallen into that. And whether it's because you've got a geeky tattoo or oddly colored hair, or because you like coming to Dragon Con and wearing a cosplay, or just because you watch that evil sci-fi. You can't be watching that sci-fi. It's the devil. You don't want to just go choose any church at random, and no matter how they treat you, what they're like there, you're just going to stay there because you've got to be in a church. No, you need to find one that's going to follow the biblical patterns. Hebrews 10, starting in verse 24, "And let us consider thoughtfully how we may encourage one another to love and to do good deeds, not forsaking our meeting together as believers for worship and instruction, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more faithfully as you see the day of Christ's return approaching." So Hebrews tells us that we should be encouraging one another. And that's not all there is to being a part of a church, but it's huge. When I had my terrible 2015, my local church, Stockbridge Community Church, was instrumental in getting me through that difficult time. The support that I had from people being there for me, loving on me, and supporting me was massive in getting me through that dark time. And Fans for Christ, we try to be as much of that as we're able. We try to encourage one another as best we can. And I hope that we can do more of that sort of thing as time goes on. But we're not a local church. Most of us are spread out amongst multiple states. We get together a couple of times a year. We're hoping to do more of that sort of thing. We're actually talking about hopefully having some outside of con events on the north side of Atlanta and the south side to start with, maybe more later. But we're hoping to be able to get together more than just the few cons that we're able to do. And man, I love our church services. I love seeing you guys. That's why I do this, because I like getting up here and looking out and seeing you guys. You look terrific. But it's not the same as somebody who's physically there for you on a regular basis. Being part of the local church is so important. I highly encourage you to follow up on that. Serve. I've done it. This is one of those things. I've done an entire message, Fans for Christ message, on this before. So there's a lot I can talk about here, and I don't have time to get into all of that. But service. One thing that I learned, this is again from my horrible 2015, I serve as one of the service directors of my church. I'm back there, back behind a board directing the camera shots and mixing the feeds and sending them out online and into the sanctuary on our screens. And I love doing that. And one thing that I learned from my service during that horrible 2015 is that it's harder for the devil to make you feel bad about yourself when you're helping others and getting nothing in return. Service is huge. 1 Peter 4 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. That's what I pray for myself. God, give me your words to speak when I'm up here in front of you guys. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. And, oh man, so many of you guys serve. The musicians that were up here, that was awesome. And they spent quite a while last night practicing for this morning. We've got people helping out at the fan table, just being there as an outreach for people, telling them who we are and what we do, telling them about the love of God. And we could not be the ministry that we are without you guys serving. It takes all of us. And it does my heart good to see you guys doing that. And hopefully we'll have more opportunities and different kinds of opportunities in the future for more of you to get involved. The next one is giving. Billy Graham says, if a person gets his attitude toward money straight, it will help straighten out almost every other area in his life. And why is that? Well, let's look at Matthew 6. Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think that's the key right there. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be. So giving helps you get your priorities straight. I'm a big fan of tithing, personally, because I feel like tithing helps train me to be a giver. It's good practice, and it helps me examine my attitude when giving. I think that giving also allows us to be part of God's blessing for others. So we have a lot of talented people here in FFC. We have a lot of talented people in my church. We have at Starkers Baptist Church, we have one of the best praise teams I've heard in a church our size. And some of the songs that they do, I think, sound better than the versions I hear on the radio. We have other techs and people who are just masters at making people who are walking through those doors for the first time, making them feel welcome and loved, and oh, we're so glad you're here. And I've come to see how much of a skill, a talent that really is, because I'm not good at that. You walk in, if I'm at the front door and you walk in anyway, why is that guy standing there? I mean, you could have spoke to me or something. I'm not good at that one-on-one interaction. But for all the talented people that we have at my church, that we have in FFC, we have limitations. So we partner with ministries such as one who helps bring people out of sex trafficking. We support a house that provides battered women with a safe place to go. I can do tech stuff. I don't know the first thing about rescuing somebody out of sex trafficking. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But by giving, I can help that ministry do that. And go out and help people in a practical way. At our church, we have a saying, your dollars go where you can't go. And I see that when I see the results of these other ministries here in Atlanta that we partner with. You know, I see what they're able to accomplish. That like I said, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So giving is part and parcel to your priorities and to being a blessing to others. It also helps remember what God has given to us. I remember a time in my life where I felt like that I was just, it was one financial disaster after another. And I was hitting the red zone. And God allowed me to see through a homeless ministry that I had it pretty good. I may have thought I had it pretty bad, but I really didn't. And being able to see what He'd given to me, or being able to give to that homeless ministry, helped me realize what God had given to me, and it helped me have faith during that difficult time. So, what might have happened if things had worked out differently between Luke and Ben? Maybe Ben wouldn't have given into the dark side and become Kylo Ren. Maybe he wouldn't have destroyed the Jedi Academy, and a new generation of Jedi would have arisen to stand against the First Order. And maybe by standing against the First Order, they wouldn't have been able to destroy all those planets and kill all those people. There's a whole lot of good that could have come out of Luke being there for Ben in a different way. Let me help you guard your heart. Let me help you not fall away from the light side. So I hope you won't give up on your faith. I hope you won't give up on God. Even when you're dealing with difficult people, when you're dealing with people who say they're Christians but don't act like it because they're doing harm to others, when they're yelling at you through a bullhorn or holding up a sign telling you how awful you are. We saw someone step out into the Dragon Con parade yesterday holding a sign with John 3:16, and I ran over to her and I pointed, because she stepped out right as we were walking up to her with our Fans for Christ banner, and I pointed to the banner. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at us. She didn't look at the banner. She didn't give us a smile or a thumbs up or nothing. She looked like she'd been sucking on a bad lemon. You know, standing there with John 3:16, for God so loved the world. It's like, but are you showing love? I mean, that's a great message. I appreciate the John 3:16 message, but are you showing love by standing there with a sign? Anyway, I hope you won't take that as representative of all Christians. I hope that you'll be able to get to know some of the folks in Fans for Christ if you are curious about Jesus, if you are wondering what God's purpose is for your life. And I hope that if you are currently following Jesus, that these examinations of some of the causes of doubt and some of these ideas on how to keep yourself strong, how to guard yourself against the dark side, will help you stay in the faith. And once again, I encourage you, don't stay in a bad situation. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. And look to God, look to others. Let us be your encouragement and your support. So with that, as Pastor Bob Beeman says, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing. I hope you guys have a great time at Con. And I hope to see you stop by the table. Thank you for coming.
Do we have time to finish out with him real quick?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Oh, we are having an official Fans for Christ gaming meetup in the America's Mart. We don't know where. We'll just have to find a table. It's at 8 8:30 tonight. So if you want to come game with fellow FFCers, please.
Yeah, we will be bringing plenty of games, but if you have a game you want to play with all of us, we'll try that one too.
Wonderful. We're going to stand up and we're going to sing just one quick verse of Be Thou My Vision, and then you guys can go forth and spread God's love. Are you ready to picture together?
Thou